You ever notice how sometimes, the moment you finally get excited about something, a new idea, a tiny dream, a direction you want to try, you tell someone, and suddenly the excitement just dies? It's strange, right? How one comment, even a soft one, can make you question everything. And the wild part is, it usually comes from people who care about you, people who genuinely want the best for you, which is why it hits even harder. Because deep down, a part of you wonders, wait, are they right? Am I being unrealistic? Am I doing something stupid? But here's the thing, and this is what nobody tells us. Sometimes the people closest to you aren't trying to protect you. They're trying to protect the version of life they understand. And that version might be way smaller than the one you're capable of living. If that thought makes something inside you pause for a second, if it reminds you of a moment where you walked away from a dream because of someone else's fear, then stay with me for a few minutes. Because once you understand why this happens and how to protect your dreams from the wrong voices, your entire life might open up in a way it never has before. Let's talk about it. Sharing your dream too early sounds innocent, almost like the responsible thing to do. You have an idea, you ask for opinions, you want to know if you're heading in the right direction. But what most people don't realize is that the moment you open your mouth, you're no longer just holding your dream, you're exposing it. And a dream in its early stage is incredibly fragile. When a new dream appears inside you, you see it in full color. You feel the excitement, the potential, the possibility of who you could become. It feels alive, breathing, warm. But when you tell someone else, they don't see what you see. They only hear a sentence, a headline, a rough outline with no context. And because they can't feel your passion the way you do, they fill in the blanks with their own fears, their own doubts, their own limits. That's the first danger. The second one is this. When people give advice, they're not responding to your future. They're responding to their past, their experiences, their mistakes, the era they grew up in, the world they had to survive in. If they grew up in scarcity, they'll warn you about risk. If they grew up in stability, they'll cling to safety. If they grew up being punished for trying something new, they'll fear change on your behalf. Their "don't do it" usually means, "I wouldn't do it, because my world didn't allow me to." But your world might be different. Your opportunities might be different. Your potential is certainly different. There's also something subtle that happens in your mind when you share too soon. Psychology calls it the social reality effect. The moment you talk about a goal, your brain feels a tiny bit of satisfaction, almost like you already accomplished something. And that false sense of progress quietly reduces your motivation to actually follow through. It's like letting air out of a balloon before it even has the chance to fly. And then there's the simplest danger of all. People can talk you out of a dream you were fully capable of achieving, just because they couldn't imagine themselves doing it. One comment, one raised eyebrow, one "are you sure?" And suddenly a dream that felt clear becomes blurry. Something that felt possible now feels silly. And you start shrinking yourself to fit someone else's comfort zone. Not because you were wrong, but because you shared too early. That's why sharing your dreams too soon can be dangerous. Not because people want to hurt you, but because your dream needs time to grow strong enough to survive other people's voices. And until it gets there, it needs protection, not exposure. Let me paint a picture for you. Something simple, something many people have lived through without even realizing it. Imagine this. You've been thinking about starting a small business. Nothing wild, nothing reckless. Just a quiet idea that's been growing inside you. Maybe a cafe, maybe a freelance service, maybe a little online store. And for the first time in a while, you actually feel excited. You can almost see what it could become, how it might change your life, give you a bit more freedom, a bit more purpose, a bit more control over your own future. So naturally, you go to the people who love you the most. Maybe your parents, maybe a close relative, maybe that older person in your family who always gives advice. You sit down, you share your plan, and you expect support. But instead, the air shifts. You hear things like, "Don't do it. It's too risky. You already have a stable job. Why would you leave that? What if you fail? It's safer to just stay where you are." And here's the thing. They're not trying to crush your dream. They're not jealous. They're not trying to hold you back. They're speaking from the world they grew up in, a world where stability meant survival, a world shaped by hardship, economic insecurity, and limited opportunities, a world where taking risks wasn't rewarded, it was punished. For them, the idea of giving up a stable job feels terrifying. Their definition of a good life is safety, predictability, and a steady income. And because they love you, they think encouraging you to stay inside that safe box is the best way to protect you. But here's the quiet truth. They're protecting you from the dangers of their past, not guiding you toward the possibilities of your future. And the moment you place your dream into their lens, it shrinks. Something full of potential suddenly looks irresponsible. Something promising suddenly feels unrealistic. Something exciting suddenly feels dangerous. Now, imagine you take that exact same dream, same idea, same plan, same you, and share it with someone who has actually built a business before. Someone who has walked through uncertainty, made mistakes, learned, tried again, and eventually succeeded. The reaction is completely different. You don't hear, "Don't do it." You hear, "If you're going to do it, here's how to do it smart." You hear guidance instead of fear, experience instead of limitation, wisdom instead of panic. They might say, "Start small. Don't borrow too much. Test your idea before investing heavily. Protect the downside, then commit. Here's what I wish someone had told me when I started." Notice how none of that is unrealistic positivity. They're not pretending the journey is easy. They're simply showing you the real path, the path they've already walked. That's the point of the startup versus stability example. It shows that the wrong person can make your dream look reckless, while the right person can help you see it clearly. Not more glamorous than it is, not scarier than it is, just real and possible. And when it comes to keeping a dream alive, clarity is everything. There's a simple principle that can quietly change the way you listen to advice for the rest of your life. Never take advice from someone you wouldn't want to become. At first, it sounds a bit harsh, almost judgmental, but if you sit with it for a moment, it's actually one of the most protective, loving rules you can give yourself. Because every time someone gives you advice, they are not just sharing words, they're sharing their worldview, their habits, their standards, their level of courage, their relationship with fear, their idea of what's normal and what's impossible. So if you follow their advice, you're not just borrowing their opinion, you're quietly borrowing their destiny. Imagine someone who absolutely hates their job. They complain every Monday. They live for the weekend. They feel stuck, but they never do anything about it. Now imagine that's the person you ask, "Do you think I should switch careers?" You already know the answer you'll get. They'll project their fear onto you and call it realism. Or think about money. If someone is constantly stressed about bills, always in debt, and never takes time to learn about finances, should that really be the person who tells you what to do with your savings? If they say, "Investing is just gambling, don't bother," they're not describing investing. They're describing their own lack of understanding and their own fear of the unknown. The same thing happens with travel and experiences. If you ask someone who never leaves their hometown whether traveling is safe, they'll list every scary story they've ever heard. Not because the world is truly that dangerous, but because their world has always been small. When you look at it like that, the principle suddenly feels obvious. If you don't want their life, why would you let them steer yours? This doesn't mean you judge people or think you're better than them. It's not about ego. It's about alignment. You can love someone deeply, respect them, be grateful for them, and still recognize that they are not the right person to guide certain parts of your journey. So how do you use this in a practical way? Anytime you're about to take advice seriously, pause and do a quick check in your mind. Ask yourself, do I actually want to live the way this person lives? Am I inspired by how they handle their work, their money, their relationships, their health? Would I be happy if my life looked like a slightly upgraded version of theirs? If the honest answer is no, then their advice can still be interesting, but it should not be decisive. You can listen politely, smile, say thank you, and then quietly put their opinion in a mental folder labeled, "Not my direction." On the other hand, when you find someone whose life you genuinely admire, not in a perfect, unrealistic way, but in a grounded, "I respect how they live" way, that's when their advice becomes gold. If someone has built a healthy relationship with work, built a business, built a stable financial base, built meaningful connections, and they give you input, it's worth leaning in. Because now, the advice is coming from a destination you actually want to move toward. Think of it like asking for directions. If you want to go to the mountains, you don't ask someone who's never left the city. If you want to go to the beach, you don't ask someone who hates the ocean. You ask someone who has actually been there, who knows the route, who understands the weather, the terrain, the common mistakes. It's the same with life. This principle is not about shutting people out. It's about filtering. You can still love your parents, your friends, your coworkers. You can still listen to them, hear their hearts, appreciate their concern. But in the quiet space inside your mind, you choose carefully whose voice gets to shape your decisions. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who has to live with the results. So, if we shouldn't take advice from just anyone, the next question becomes almost unavoidable. How do we actually find the right people to share our dreams with? Because it's not enough to simply avoid the wrong voices. At some point, you'll want guidance, you'll want feedback, you'll want someone who actually understands where you're trying to go, someone who doesn't shrink your dream, but helps you see it more clearly. And the truth is, the right people aren't always the closest people. They're the people whose lives quietly reflect the direction you want to move toward. The first sign you've found the right person is alignment. Not in personality, not in hobbies, but in destination. When you talk to someone who's already living in the future you're trying to build, the energy feels different. Instead of reacting with fear, they react with recognition. They understand why this dream matters to you, because at one point, it mattered to them too. There's a calmness in the way they respond, a steadiness, a sense of, yes, I've walked this road. Here's what you need to know. They won't glamorize your dream or exaggerate its difficulty. They'll simply tell you the truth, clearly, gently, without drama. Another sign is evidence. This part is simple, but many people skip it. Look at their life. Look at their results. Look at what they've built. If someone claims to be a great investor, but they're always stressed about money. If someone talks endlessly about entrepreneurship, but never follows through. If someone presents themselves as a relationship expert, but can't maintain healthy relationships, then their words and their reality aren't aligned. And when the two don't match, the reality speaks louder. The right people aren't necessarily rich or famous or loud. Sometimes they're quiet, humble, almost invisible unless you look closely. But there's a consistency in how they live, a quiet proof that they've walked the path they're talking about. You'll also notice something else. The right people don't impose. They don't try to control your choices. They don't say, you must do this or you have to do that. They offer frameworks, not commands. They offer experience, not pressure. And they'll ask you questions, good questions, questions that make you think deeper about your own desires instead of bending you toward theirs. They'll ask, what does success look like for you? What's the timeline you're comfortable with? What's the real reason you want this? What's the worst case scenario? And can you handle it? Those questions come from someone who genuinely wants you to succeed, not someone who wants you to choose the safe answer. And finally, the right people leave you feeling expanded, not deflated. When you talk to them, something inside you feels lifted. You walk away with clarity, not confusion. You feel more grounded, not more afraid. Even when their advice is tough, it still feels constructive, like they're guiding you forward, not pulling you backward. And here's the beautiful thing. You don't need a crowd. You don't even need 5 people. Sometimes, all you need is one. One person who's already where you want to be. One person who understands the journey. One person who can look at your dream and say, I see why this matters. Here's how to do it well. When you find someone like that, their words can save you years of confusion, self-doubt, and unnecessary mistakes. But if you can't find that person yet, that's okay. It just means, for now, your dream is asking you to hold it close, to nurture it quietly, to let it grow strong enough until the right people eventually cross your path. And trust me, they will. There's a moment in every dreamer's journey where you realize something important. Not everyone needs to know what you're building. And actually, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing at all. Silence isn't secrecy. Silence isn't fear. Silence is protection. Because a dream, especially in its early stages, is a lot like a seed. It's small, delicate, easily shaken. And if you expose it to the wrong environment too soon, it can't take root. Not because it's weak, but because it's still growing. When a dream first arrives, it arrives fragile. It's just a spark of excitement, a little possibility, a quiet voice that whispers, maybe I can do this. But before that whisper becomes a conviction, before that idea becomes a plan, before you build up your own belief, that's when it's most vulnerable. And that's exactly when one careless comment from someone else can shut the whole thing down. Sometimes it's something subtle. Are you sure? That seems unrealistic. I don't think you're ready. Why would you try that? Nothing dramatic, nothing cruel, but enough to make the flame inside you flicker. And if you're not strong in that moment, you'll confuse their doubt with your truth. That's why building quietly can be so powerful. It allows your dream to grow at its own pace without being shaken by opinions, judgment, or the noise of other people's fears. It gives you the space to explore, experiment, learn, fail, adjust, and try again, without an audience. There's also a psychological reason silence helps you. When you talk about a goal too early, your brain gets a small hit of satisfaction, almost like you've already achieved something. It's called premature confidence, and it tricks your mind into feeling progress before any real progress has happened. Talking replaces doing, and motivation quietly fades. But when you stay quiet, you stay hungry, you stay focused, you stay committed to the work, not the idea of the work. And that shift, that grounding, is what keeps a dream alive long enough to grow into something real. Silence also protects you from unnecessary pressure. When you announce a dream too early, it becomes public. Suddenly people are watching. Suddenly you're carrying their expectations, their timelines, their judgment. Even when they mean well, you start feeling like you have to prove something. And that pressure can suffocate the joy out of the process. But when you build quietly, you're free. Free to grow at your own pace. Free to make mistakes without everyone noticing. Free to learn deeply instead of performing for approval. Free to change direction without feeling like you've failed. Think about some of the strongest people you know, the ones who surprise everyone with what they've accomplished. They tend to have something in common. They didn't talk much during the building phase. They worked. They showed up. They did the slow, unseen work that nobody claps for. And when they finally shared their results, it wasn't a dream anymore. It was reality. That's the power of quiet building. It doesn't mean you hide forever. It doesn't mean you push people away. It simply means you give your dream the privacy it needs to grow strong enough to withstand the world. When your dream is young, protect it with silence. When your dream is stable, guide it with wisdom. And when your dream is ready, share it proudly. By then, the world won't be able to knock it down because it will already be standing on its own. The beautiful thing about this principle, choosing whose voice you let shape your life, is that it doesn't just apply to dreams or business or career. Once you notice it, you start seeing it everywhere. Every area of your life has people offering advice, opinions, warnings, and judgments. And most of the time, they're doing it with good intentions. But intention doesn't guarantee alignment, and alignment is what actually matters. Take money, for example. Some people will confidently tell you, investing is too risky, or you should never put your money in the stock market, or just save in cash, that's the safest way. But when you look at their life, you'll notice they're constantly stressed about bills, always behind, never able to take a break because they're afraid of not making enough. They don't have a financial system, they don't have long-term investments, and they're not building wealth, they're surviving. So when they tell you investing is dangerous, they're not describing reality, they're describing their relationship with money. And if you follow their fears, you'll inherit their results. Now look at someone who actually built financial stability. They're patient, they're calm. They understand risk, not fear it. They talk about decades, not weeks. They don't brag, they don't panic. They compound quietly. Their life reflects consistency, not chaos. When they speak, the tone is completely different. They'll tell you, start small. Understand what you're investing in. Don't chase shortcuts. Time is your greatest asset. It's grounded, not emotional. It's coming from experience, not insecurity. Or take relationships. Everyone has opinions about what love should be, how partners should act, how conflicts should be solved. But think about this carefully. Should you take relationship advice from someone who's constantly in drama? Someone who jumps from one argument to the next, one breakup to the next? Someone who repeats the same patterns but never learns from them? If you listen to them, you'll start normalizing chaos. But if you look at someone who built a healthy relationship, someone with patience, communication, kindness, accountability, their advice feels different. It's slower, softer, more honest. They'll tell you the truth even when it's not comfortable, and their life gives weight to their words. The same thing shows up in career. Some people will tell you, "Don't try that, it's too competitive," or "Nobody makes money doing that," or "Just stay where you are, it's stable." But when you look at their life, you see someone who never tried anything new, someone who settled early, someone who stayed in the same place not because they loved it, but because changing felt scary. Their advice isn't based on fact, it's based on avoidance. But talk to someone who changed careers successfully, someone who took a risk and made it work, someone who reinvented themselves. Their perspective is completely different. They'll encourage clarity, preparation, discipline, but they won't discourage growth. Even something as simple as travel reveals the principle. If you ask someone who never leaves their hometown whether traveling is safe, they'll list every frightening scenario imaginable. But if you talk to someone who has seen the world, who has learned from different cultures, who has grown through new environments, they'll tell you something else entirely. They'll tell you what to be careful about, what to prepare, but they'll also tell you why the experience is worth it. When you start filtering advice this way, you begin to see the pattern. People don't give advice about your life. They give advice based on their life. And once you understand that, you stop taking things personally. You stop feeling discouraged. You stop letting fear spread into your decisions. You can still love people, still listen to them, still appreciate them, but you no longer hand them the steering wheel of your future. This principle isn't just a technique, it's a lens, one that helps you navigate money, career, relationships, growth, travel, and every major decision you'll ever make. And when you apply it across your life, everything becomes clearer. The noise gets quieter, the path feels straighter, and the pressure to please everyone slowly dissolves. Because now, you're choosing your advisors intentionally, and you're building your life with voices that help you grow, not shrink. As we come to the end of this conversation, I want to leave you with something simple, something you can carry with you long after this video ends. Your dreams, the real ones, the ones that tug at you quietly, the ones you think about when no one is watching. Those dreams are more fragile than they look. Not weak, not unrealistic, just delicate in the beginning, like anything new and meaningful in life. And the truth is, not everyone is meant to hold them with you. Some people will hear your dream and immediately picture everything that could go wrong. Others will shrink it to the size of what they believe is reasonable. And some, without meaning to, will project their fears onto you and call it protection. But if there's one thing I hope you remember, it's this. You are not obligated to hand your future to every voice that asks for it. Be selective, be intentional, be protective of the things that matter. Find the people who respond with clarity, not fear. Seek out those whose lives quietly reflect where you want to go. Listen to the voices that expand you, not the ones that limit you. And when the right people aren't around yet, when you're still building confidence, still forming your direction, still growing, it's okay to walk quietly. It's okay to build in silence. It's okay to let your dreams develop hidden from the noise until they're strong enough to stand in the light. Think of your dream like a small flame. If you shield it from the wind, it grows. If you nurture it with patience, it strengthens. And once it becomes a steady fire, nothing can blow it out. So take your time, choose your advisors wisely, trust your own path, and remember that you don't need permission to create a life that feels true to you. At the end of the day, the world doesn't shape your dream. You do. And when you choose the right voices to guide you, everything you're imagining becomes a whole lot more possible. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. And wherever you are on your journey, I hope you keep going.